Why would a guy use Riomax? After all, we've even been called high-priced shit. The bottom line is, Riomax has to be making you money, or you shouldn't be using it. There's a reason there's over 500,000 cows currently licking on the Riomax tubs. The three main reasons guys currently using the product are making money on the tubs. First and foremost is the feed savings. 15 to 30% feed savings, what we typically see on Riomax, and majority of the time that alone will pay for the product. Secondly is weaning weights. We generally see a 10 to 40 pound increase in weaning weights. And third is a 3 to 10% increase in conception rates. To focus specifically on the feed and forage savings, the 15 to 30% feed savings on Riomax, after all, that is the main reason guys use the tubs. What we're doing is we're feeding the good microbes in the cow's rumen so she's digesting her feed more efficiently, and in turn she needs less of it. When you think about a conventional protein tub, how it works is there's a bit of protein in that tub, say 20% tub, and that cow will eat a pound or a pound and a half a day of that protein tub, and it's a little bit like a granola bar, an addition to her diet of what she's already eating. Nothing wrong with that. I've heard from guys that it can get rather expensive supplementing protein that way, and I can't say I disagree. With Riomax, we're focused on giving that cow a little bit of the tub to go break down all of what she's already eating, that 30 or 35 pounds of feed or grass, to help her get more protein and more energy out of everything she's already getting. Now, how are we getting that done, you might ask? We're not focused on feeding the cow. We're focused on feeding the microbes. If you think about it like a probiotic that humans take for their gut health, we're feeding those microbes so they're more active and there's more of them. When that cow's out there grazing or when she's eating a bale of hay or a TMR ration, those microbes are more stimulated and there's more of them to pull more protein and more energy out of that feed. And with the study at the University of Minnesota, we showed that we were increasing the TDN of the forage that that cow's consuming by 3 percentage points, which means she's squeezing more out of every mouthful. Second to that is those microbes only live for somewhere between a couple hours and a couple days, depending on the type. And when they die, they turn into what's called microbial protein for the cow. Microbial protein makes up to 80% of a cow's daily protein requirements, which is a huge piece to the puzzle when we're looking to supplement protein for the cow. What does this look like in your cow? It's a great question. Number one, looking at manure. What you'll notice in the manure after anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks on Riomax is a more pancake batter consistency, especially through the winter. Cow's manure tends to stack up, generally due to lack of protein or lack of energy. On Riomax, we'll start to see that more like a pancake batter consistency. Second to that is when you actually kick open the manure with your boot, you're gonna see a finer strand. There's not so many chunks coming out the back end. There's not so many stems of hay, just because of how much further those cows are actually breaking down that feed. Second thing you'll notice right away is the cattle's contentment. Happy cows is the easiest way I can explain it. As a rancher, I'm sure you know what happy cows look like. And that's something I've heard time and time again here at Rio, is guys call me and they say, this is gonna sound really weird, but my cows are just happy.
They're happy. They're happy cows.
Especially through the winter, the cows aren't meeting you at the gate waiting for feed or to be caked. They're just a lot more content, laying around a lot more. The third thing, and the most important thing, how Riomax pays for itself, is the feed savings. Generally, what that looks like is 15 to 30% less feed or forage. On Riomax, when we're stimulating those cows' microbes so they're breaking down that feed more efficiently, they're gonna be consuming less feed because they're able to meet their daily requirements with less. Here in Hewlett, Wyoming, I was just talking to a rancher here today, and what he was saying is they've cut back to about 26 pounds of hay per head per day. Guys in the area are normally feeding 30 to 35 pounds. So if you take on average, let's just say he's saving 5 pounds a day, and hay, take it at 150 bucks a ton. Some guys will be more, some guys will be less, but that's 7.5 cents a pound. 5 pounds of feed savings at 7.5 cents a pound is 38 cents per head per day we are saving on those cows. Now, the science of Riomax is consistently delivering results from the north of Alberta to the south of Florida. That's because It's specific to the microbes in the rumen of your cow, not specific to your feedstuffs, your breed of your animal, or even geography. Riomax is generally 3 to 4 times what another protein tub would cost on an upfront basis. Reason being is Riomax is built to a value point, not a price point. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of products out there that have a lot of fillers, salt, cheaper minerals, and lower levels of mineral that allow that tub to only cost the rancher $150, but the cattle need to eat a pound a day to meet their daily requirements. With Riomax, we focus on packing as much value as we possibly can in a tub, allowing the cattle to only need a quarter pound a day instead of a whole pound. Now let's talk about true cost. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of ranchers out there that when they're looking at what they're gonna spend on their mineral, they focus very much on the cost per ton or cost per tub of what they're looking to purchase. And while that's okay, the thing to remember is your upfront cost is not your true cost. So take, for example, a $150 protein tub. Say it's a 200-pound tub, and the cattle need to eat a pound a day to meet their daily requirements. That protein tub is going to cost you 75 cents per cow per day. Now the upfront cost of Riomax before any quantity discounts is going to be $500 per 250-pound tub. At our average consumption, Riomax is only going to cost about 46 cents per head per day. Now you think about that, we are 29 cents per head per day cheaper than the tub that's only a third of the cost of Riomax. So again, on a cost per tub basis, we're not going to be your cheapest option. In fact, we're going to be by far the highest on the market. But on a cost per cow per day, or your true cost, we're going to be comparable, if not cheaper, than the majority of options out there. The most important thing to note about this whole thing though, is what are you getting for that cost per head per day? Because with Riomax, it's a tub that pays for itself. And majority of the time that is in the feed and forage savings alone. We've done a study with our customers, and 8 out of 10 customers said the tubs paid for themselves. 1.5 out of 10 customers said they weren't sure yet, still deciding, and half a customer, or 5%, said no, they didn't feel like the tubs paid for themselves. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about true cost, the important thing to remember is what are we actually getting for your money? Now, a lot of ranchers want to look at what's the cheapest thing I can do for my herd, which isn't wrong because we got to be conservative and we got to look at the bottom line. But the other factor to it is look at your mineral program like an investment. What is your return on that investment? The mineral program should not just be the cheapest you can find, but it should be the best return for your money. So if you think about Riomax, if you're spending 44 cents a day on Riomax, but you're saving 45 cents a day on feed, then you're actually putting 1 penny per cow per day back in your pocket, not figuring what you would have been spending on another supplement program. So if you had been going with tub X at 75 cents per cow per day, and now you're putting a penny a day back in your pocket, that is 76 cents per head per day you're saving. There's a lot of programs out there that use sulfates and oxides, which are a cheaper form of your minerals, and ultimately those are less available to the cow, which means less of those minerals are actually getting into the bloodstream. If you take, for example, copper sulfate, it's a cheap form of copper, which is a lot less available to the cow, and ultimately copper sulfate's actually been proven to have a detrimental impact on your rumen microbes as well as your soil microbes. With Riomax, we use what's called 100% protected key trace minerals. So your minerals, your copper, your zinc, and your manganese are 100% protected, which means we're giving them the best chance scientifically possible to make it through the cow's rumen into her small intestine where it can be absorbed into the bloodstream. One way to think about it is a celebrity surrounded by bodyguards. They have a protection mechanism around them to help them get from point A to point B safely. It's the same thing with Riomax. When she takes in that mineral, we want to protect that mineral so it can make it through her system into the small intestine, into her bloodstream, and get where it needs to go. Now, why does that matter to you? Well, your minerals have a massive impact on your overall herd performance. So if you spend a lot on bulls or genetics, run into things like pink eye, foot rot, calving health, overall impactors like conception rates, weaning weights, and overall animal development. Getting minerals into the animals, and not only minerals, but the right form of the mineral, has a massive impact on your overall herd performance and results. As Dr. Hall says, up to 70% of the cows in America are deficient in copper. So not only is it important those animals are getting copper or the right levels into their system, but making sure it's the right form that's getting where it needs to go. There's a lot of tubs out there with a lot of fillers and salt in them that are building that tub to a $150 a tub price point instead of focusing on the value. With Riomax, everything we put in the tub is carefully measured to ensure it's bringing the most value for the rancher. So in that way, we're packing that much more into a quarter pound of the tub, and they don't need to eat a pound or a pound and a half a day to meet those daily requirements. It's a little bit like buying Roundup. You can buy Roundup pre-mixed with a lot of water in it, or you can buy Roundup concentrate. Now, it is more expensive per gallon to buy the concentrate, but it'll cover a lot more acres per gallon than your premix Roundup will. Same as the Riomax tub has a lot more feedings in it at a quarter pound than another protein tub at a pound or a pound and a half a day consumption. Let's talk about what the consumption range looks like on the Riomax tub. We see between an eighth and a third of a pound consumption on Riomax. And with our forage balancer technology, those cows are going to self-regulate depending on their needs and the quality of feed of that time of year. So take, for example, coming through calving, as that cow's building up her colostrum and giving the calf everything it needs before it hits the ground, typically what we'd see is that consumption would come up a little as she works to fulfill those needs. And then as we go out on spring grass and through the summer on good green grass, we generally would see that consumption a lot lower because those cows' dietary needs aren't nearly as high that time of year. Now, as a rancher, you probably hate risk. And with Riomax, we back up the consumption on the tub with our Cost Guard 90, which is our consumption guarantee. It's unlikely, but if the cattle do consume over that third of a pound over the 90 days, we got your back and we'll reimburse you down to that third of a pound. So if you're thinking Riomax is something you want to look into this year, let's catch up, run some numbers, and see how Riomax can pay for itself in your operation. After all, Riomax is the tub that pays for itself.